Alright, so engine's in. Well, not in, it's bolted into the vehicle, but it's not operational yet. I've got to do some stuff with the wiring. I've got to do the wiring inside the car. I've got to get the axles in. Got to get the shift linkage connected. Clutch, slave cylinder, blah blah blah. Basically all the bits and pieces that need to be done. Not really going to film all that. I think if you made it this far, if you're doing this swap, you can probably figure out all that stuff on your own. Yeah, so one last thing I need to kind of work on is the battery box. I was going to relocate the battery to the trunk, but I kind of decided against that. I just don't feel like doing it. But so this is the battery tray I previously made, and it looks like it will still fit for the most part. You just have to make a couple of modifications to it to get it to actually fit. So that's what I'm going to work on now. I need to trim this bracket a little bit, and I need to build a bracket that will come up off of this mount to bolt here to support that side of the battery. So I'm going to work on that, and I'll just show you what it's like when it's done. Alright, so this is what I've come up with for the battery box. I went ahead and I fabbed up this little bracket here, which is just tack welded in place. I need to obviously finish those welds, but the way this is going to work, just like the factory battery box, this is modeled after the factory box. So we'll just bolt in a couple of M6s, one there. This hole back here is a little bit off, but it's whatever. 3 out of 4 ain't bad, so that one back there, I'll have to re-drill that. I can probably skew this enough to make it fit, but I don't know. I think I'd rather just re-drill that hole. I gotta put a spacer up under there because it's a little high. But yeah. So I'm just gonna go ahead and weld up that bracket, and that'll be the battery box, you know. Alright, so here's my finished battery bracket. Show you how that guy installs. Pretty straightforward. So I'd use the mounts from the motor mount here. So I'd add a bolt in like that. There's that. Obviously not bolted down all the way, but good enough for this demonstration. And then the battery tray will just screw in. 2 holes there. I need to make these holes bigger because I screwed up lining some stuff up, but some of the stuff just needs to be trimmed up a little bit. But anyways, that'll basically be the battery tray. 2 bolts there, a bolt there, and a bolt in the back. And that's that. So I can go ahead and scratch that off the list that I never actually started. So you may have heard me mention KA injection a few times. They're basically the only it's one guy, but anyways, the only company that makes anything for these chassis. He tries to make stuff that can kind of be used for other stuff, you know, for Miata, like the Mazda BP stuff. So there's some engine parts that can obviously be used on the Miata But like all the chassis stuff, that's pretty specific to the BG. So there's really no one out there really doing that right now. So anyways, just thought, since I finally got the engine back, I'd buy some dress up stuff. So went ahead and bought this. This is just a Toyota coil plug tie down plate. There's really nothing wrong with the one that's on there now. It's just a flat piece of metal. This is just more aesthetically pleasing. So go ahead and pick that up. I'm gonna go ahead and install this real quick. A few other things I got from KA Injection that I don't think I've mentioned. These front camber plates. So yeah, I got these front camber plates. They're really nice because the factory plates, not factory plates, but the K-Sport plates are camber only. Camber or caster only, depending on the orientation you plug them in, or you bolt them in. These are caster and camber, so nice, and they just look really nice, and that way they match the ones in the back too. Other thing I picked up was this fuel pressure regulator, and this is a pretty nice little trick piece. It's a housing that basically looks like the factory housing, and then there's a pressure regulator disc that goes inside. It's just held in with a C-clip. And so the one I have is the factory pressure. I believe it's like 42 pounds is the base pressure, but you can get them available in different ratings, so they're adjustable. I mean, they're adjustable. You can pull it apart and you can replace the diaphragm inside basically and go for a higher pressure. I basically got it because it has a what do you call it? A 6AN, a dash 6AN connector on it. So once my other connectors come in, I can go ahead and I'll be able to attach my flex fuel sensor basically right off the back of it and not have to run a line and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's just a much cleaner looking guy. So I don't know why I'm even bothered putting that on there. One hand. Not working, so whatever. But anyways, that's another nice piece from KA Injection. So once again, another piece that not only works for the BG or the Protege or the Escort, you can also use these on the Miata. So snazzy little piece there, especially if you're turbocharged and you're using smaller injectors and you want to up the fuel pressure, or even if you're using big injectors. But if you just want to increase the fuel pressure, you can get these in different pressure readings. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this guy off and get the new one on. Alright, so now that this is done, I'm going to go ahead and work on getting the axles attached and on and all that fun stuff. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get the axles ready to install. So when you get these axles, they're two-piece axles. If you remember from the earlier videos, there's a transmission side, a stub that's inside the transmission, and then there's the outer portion that goes into the hub. So each axle comes with grease. You have to grease these guys before you install them. It's pretty thick, so you don't have to worry about it running out. I'm just gonna grab some gloves and pack it in there, and then comes with a gasket and some hardware to bolt the axles together. So right now, I'm gonna go ahead and get them greased up, and then throw them in there, or throw one in there anyways. You do have to be careful with these axles because you can accidentally disassemble them. This is why they do come zip tied together. because if you pull this hub too far down or too far out, you can pop these bearings out, and they're really difficult to get back in. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to apply some grease inside on the axle just because, I don't know, it seems like that might be a good idea. So the grease is nice and sticky, so it should hold your gasket in place. Hopefully. So there we can see the axle. Probably should have cleaned that out a little bit. So right there, I should have, yeah, so right there you can see where I squirted some of the grease on. Like I said, it's super sticky. It's not going to go anywhere. All right. I think I'm gonna have to raise the car up, unfortunately. The boot kind of comes into really close contact with the bottom of the strut. Well, guess it is what it is, you know. Alright, so there's one axle down. I'm just going to go ahead and knock out the other one. I'm not going to film it. I don't feel like moving the camera. So yeah, just going to go ahead and knock out the other one and think of what's next. So I've got no idea what to do next. Hey guys, welcome back. So I've gotten quite a bit done. Well, yeah, I've gotten quite a bit done as far as getting this thing ready to start. Still nowhere close to being ready to start, but like I said, a lot has been done. So the axles are in both sides. Oh god, I gotta clean up in here. It's a disaster. But anyways, you can see all kinda with that one. There we go. So both axles are bolted in. I've got the shift linkage in. Or my light. Anyways, so shift linkage is connected And then I went ahead and I got some solid or semi-solid bushings for the linkage. So I need to get a pin for this one. I don't know where the pin is, but that's pretty solid. Thought I bolted all that stuff down. I hope I did. It'd be stupid of me if I didn't tighten it down. Anyways, that's all tightened down. That's all snugged. Started putting stuff on the engine, more so just to be visually pleasing, not actually hooked up or anything. It's just all just resting there. I was curious to see just how much the engine moved, so I wanted to see if everything was going to line back up. You know, the engine is a little more forward. I think there's a little bit more of a lean, a tilt to it. It's got a bit of a gangster tilt to it. But overall, you know, I had the radiator and everything in there too. But overall, the engine hasn't moved that much. I don't think I'm going to need to refabricate up like new intercooler piping or anything like that. Everything should still line up. So I was waiting on a few parts. One of the things I was waiting on was this fitting here. Focus. Why is it not focusing? But anyways, this fitting here is a piece I was waiting for. It's the same thread as the Mazda clutch line. You know, it's a M10 by 100 or M10 by 1, but I'm using a braided line which has a 4AN line on it, or 3AN dash. I think it's dash 3. So I needed a M10 to dash 3 adapter. I had one on the Mazda slave cylinder, but I think I gave it away or I threw it away, and I left the fitting on like a dumbass. So anyways, I had to order a new fitting. You know, it's pretty cheap, $7, whatever. So I can get that on. I can get the clutch line on, get that bled. I got my speedometer cable. Supposedly I can use supposedly the gear that's inside of the transmission actually kind of works out for the speedometer in the car. So I think it's like within 2 miles an hour or something like that. So if you get a Mazda Protege LX speedometer cable, this end will plug into the Escort GT or the Escort Dash, and this end will actually thread on to the Toyota transmission. So you can connect the Toyota transmission right up to your BG Dash. Hopefully that's the case. So I gotta get that guy installed, and I had to order these guys just because I was missing one of the clips, so I went ahead and ordered a couple. These hold the shift cables into the bracket down there. So I still have some wiring to do. I still have to get all this wiring, it's so dark in there, all this wiring finished. I mean, it's finished, it just needs to be ran and zip tied into place. I'm relocating the flex fuel sensor from the fender to the firewall because I think it'll look cleaner. I've got a vacuum distribution block. Oh crap, that needs to be bolted down, but that should clean up all the vacuum lines. And yeah, that should be pretty close to getting done. Obviously the inside of the car has not been touched, so I still have to mount the ECU, and there's a couple of wires that need to be spliced and stuff, but that's the easy stuff. That shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, so all I really need to work on now is getting this thing ready to turn over. So it's mostly just going to be me zip tying wires and tidying up some stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Alright, so I've gotten a lot done. Just getting stuff hooked up and getting wires ran and all that fun stuff. I decided I'm going to go ahead and fill the transmission with fluid because I want to make sure it's not leaking. I don't want to get everything done, fill up with fluid, and then turns out I got pulled apart to redo something stupid. So I'm going to go ahead and fill her up. So there's a plug here on the side, which is technically the fill plug, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to fill it up from there. So a lot of guys, what they use it as they use it as the indicator. So what you want to do is pull one of these top plugs or top ports, fill it from there, and then once it starts to leak out of this port, then you know it's full. So I believe it takes like 4.2 quarts or something along the lines of that. I'm just gonna so I only bought 4. I bought the cheapest stuff they had because I didn't want to fill it up with something nice only to have to drain it if something goes wrong. So it's not bad. It's the Valvoline synthetic stuff. It was 2 for $20, so turned out to be a decent deal. So another thing I need to figure out is a plug for this front I guess I probably don't want stuff up under here that I want to get covered in oil. This was a MR2 transmission, so there was the shift linkage originally came out the front here. So I gotta figure out something to plug that. Figure I can probably get a piece of brass stock and turn it down and hammer it in there. Oh, apparently that's full. Whoops. You know, I was trying to be cautious, and that apparently did not work out well for me. At least I had the foresight to put some cardboard down on the ground. So yeah, definitely full there. Definitely got an oil slick. So it took like 3 1/4. Not I guess I probably could have grabbed a pan at this point. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So anyways, that's full. That's super full. So I'm gonna grab some cat litter and stop that. Put a plug in there and call it good.